Your home can be more than just a home. It can be your own personal fitness retreat, a place where you break a sweat, break your personal record, or just get a break in the day. Johnson Fitness and Wellness is your partner in creating the perfect home gym. And now, enjoy up to 50% off top-rated treadmills, ellipticals starting at $5.99, and major discounts on strength equipment. Visit a local store or johnsonfitness.com. Your home gym is just a few steps away.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for listening. You are listening to Sunday Talks with Kellie and Lisa. I am the Kellie portion of that. And
I'm Lisa.
There she is. I knew it was going to happen. Last week, we started talking about money and what your money story is. And we were talking before the show, if you've done a lot of work on your money story, one thing to understand is it can get overwhelming. And just if you're starting to feel overwhelmed, just stop for a while. We can only process as much as we can process, as we're ready to process at any time. So I talked a little bit about my money story, and I had the strangest thing happen. I had a dream that someone was coming to bring me a lot of money, and the first time I had the dream, the gate wouldn't open. And then my dog chased them off. And then the next dream, they were stuck in the mud. And last night, they were stuck in the mud, and I was trying to pull them out with an Amish wagon, a horse-drawn Amish cart. Now, on the surface, that sounds like a lot of silly dreams, but sometimes we need to look with a different perspective. And what that dream that I had last night showed me very clearly, once you know how to interpret such things, is that I still have some work to do around money. Rather than being open and ready to receive a large quantity of cash, I'm finding obstacles to put in the way of that. And with the Amish cart in particular, it's about, I think about what the Amish people are. They're not very materialistic. They're very spiritual. They're very grounded people. And I grew up in a poor family being told that those rich people are bad people. They're angry, they're hateful, they use people, all these horrible things that I was told about people who had a lot of money. So that's what my dream was telling me. I still need to do a little bit of work on that. And when you're going through your own money journey, you're going to find that. You're going to think everything is healed and you're ready to go, and then something else is going to come up, and it's going to make you reevaluate maybe even things you thought you'd already learned. You know, our spiritual journey is a spiral. We keep going back to the same thing over and over and over again until they are completely healed on every level. Money plays into that. Now, I always get a lot of people raising their eyebrows and laughing at me when I associate money with a spiritual journey. But truly, anything that we go through in our lives is part of our journey. Money is just as big a part of that journey as spirituality. When we start looking at money as it's just a tool, it's just a means to an end, then a lot of people find that things open up for them. Sitting there focused on, I have to make money through a job. I'm not making enough money through this job, so I must get a second job. If that's your approach to getting more money, please stop killing yourself. Because we work ourselves to death trying to get more and more and more things. And really, it's not about the things. It's about how those things make us feel. So that goes back to where we are spiritually. So when you look at it in that way, money is very much a part of your spiritual journey. Think about what you would do if you had as much money as you needed to do any project, what would you do? That's a really good exercise when you feel like you're getting overwhelmed. If you're looking at where your money story started and how it was impacted and how this person took money and that person used you and the other person abused you and on and on and on, it can get really overwhelming. It can make it very, very difficult to move forward or to know what you need to do or even what you want to do sometimes. So just sit down with a pen and a piece of paper and write down, if I had all the money that I needed to do any project, what project would I do? And see what happens. See what comes up for you. You know, we're trying to help you get ahead. We're trying to help you realize where your blocks are and how to heal them. We're not trying to overwhelm anyone. And I heard, and we were talking before the show, about how some people may be overwhelmed when they start digging into their money story. And I've heard from some people who said, you know, it really is overwhelming when you start that journey. And, you know, that's not our intention. Everything can become overwhelming. But if you find yourself becoming overwhelmed or feeling really, really, really frustrated, sit down with a pen and a piece of paper and write it out. Even write out, why am I feeling so frustrated right now? What is it about dealing with money stresses me out so much? I hear that over and over and over, that people are stressed out when they think about money. And if you sit down and you just, why am I stressed out? Ask yourself questions. You know, when I'm coaching someone, even sometimes doing a reading with people, I ask questions until there are no more questions to ask. If you ask enough questions, you will eventually get where you need to be. And that's what we're trying to help. So, Lisa, do you have something to add?
First of all, do you even have a horse and buggy?
No.
I love that. You know, it's interesting that you brought up the blocks because we can realize that they're there, and then sometimes it takes a dream to just sock it to us and be like, okay, now I understand, and now I need to look deeper. Last week we talked about just starting to scratch the surface of your money blocks, your money story, your money history, and really starting to work in those ancestral bonds. And we gave an assignment of to try to remember that first money memory. I still really can't pinpoint any one memory. Maybe I have blocks that I need to work on. But, you know, other things came up with phrases. Things like you said, you know, money is the root of all evil. But they don't ever go on and explain the next of that passage, right, that it's supposed to be used for good. And so we just hear the first part and we take that to heart. You know, I'm not Eisenhower. I'm not a Rockefeller. I'm not a Rockefeller. Money doesn't grow on trees. Things along those lines. You might not have a memory of the first time that happened or of, you know, a particular situation that you can remember, but I'm pretty sure a lot of us heard those types of things. And if that comes along with also being raised in a very limiting environment as well, for me it was religion. Money was definitely not, you know, tied to religion. It was evil because of Christ, you know, at the steps of the temple and his interaction with the tax people there, and things like he was poor, but he was the richest poor man in the world, and so was Mother Teresa, so was Princess Diana, and I'm not knocking them at all. They had a support system to go out and make the world a better place, and I want to do that. I don't have the backing of a crown or of the church, but they weren't as poor as they have been presented to us. So that's something that we also need to, I think some of us need to heal that as well.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest stumbling blocks that I've ever encountered people stumbling over is when I start talking about money as a tool. And if you look deeper into your heart, it isn't things themselves that we want. It's the feeling of having those things. You know, I can't tell you how many people I've coached through, you know, questioning their vision board. When you put, you know, cars and houses and pools and, you know, airplanes and those kinds of things on your vision board, which, number one, I don't like vision boards. I've said that before. I'll say it again. It makes me question, what feeling do you associate with having these things? And usually people will tell me the, you know, success, happiness. If they're really honest, they'll tell me they want the feeling of having more than those people in high school that put them down. Things are what comes up. And all of those things we have within us already. And it's a matter of teaching people that, yes, you can have all of those things. There is nothing wrong with having any or all of those things. But make sure you want them for the right reasons, or you may find that you lose them as quickly as you get them. And we'll talk about this more further on in our series, but I wanted to bring it up now and introduce that concept, because if you want things simply for the sake of having things without realizing why you might want them, you may be setting yourself up for a downfall later. Concentrate right now on how do you want to feel? You want to feel stress-free? You want to feel debt-free? You want to feel happy? You want to feel successful? What do you want to feel? Because one thing I have learned through umpteen years of coaching people through these things is everyone has a different thing they want to feel. If you ask a group of people in a room, how much money do you need to be comfortable? You will be shocked at the differences in amount. I did that in a group session one time. And I had people say, if I had $25,000 in my bank, I'd be happy, I'd be comfortable. I had other people say, oh, I would need at least $5 billion to be comfortable. So you have to realize when we're starting out talking about money stories, and we're starting out talking about all those things we heard as children about money and about people with money, you need to keep in mind who you are as an individual and what you want. You know, personally, I've talked about I want to establish a nonprofit that is a fresh food bank where people can come and get fresh fruits and vegetables and meats and those dairy, those kinds of things. Because our food bank here gives out rotten, expired things. How much money will that take? I have no idea. I really honestly don't. In my mind, I think probably with $50,000 I could get everything set up and up. Do I know that's what it'll take? No. But that's a good first goal for me to think about. When I sit down and I think about what it's really going to cost, I might find it costs twice that much or even half that much. So it's not really about the things and the dollars that make you a good person or be able to do good things. It's about what you do with it. It's about what you feel about these things. You know, some people look at a private jet and think, no, not for all the tea in China. Would I want that upkeep and that expense? And I'd have to find a pilot and I'd have to find a place to park a plane and on and on and on. And a jet is the last thing they would ever want. Other people look at that and say, wow, that's a great status symbol. That would make me appear to other people to be very successful. And that's true. And if you have a need for a private jet and you want to, I know someone who has a private plane who ferries dogs to be adopted, and he goes all over the world picking up dogs that need help and taking them to the help. That's what he does with his private plane. Yahoo. But you know what? He'd still be a good person even if he charged business people to fly them around. It's not about the money. Money is a tool. And before everyone starts telling me how overwhelmed they are and how it's dredging up all sorts of negative memories from their childhood, know that you're going to have those come up, and you're only going to have as much come up as you're ready to handle. And reassure yourself with the fact that you will do great things, the money that's coming your way. You'll do good things. You won't, raid corporations and put people out of jobs. You're not a bad person. If you're listening to our show, I can pretty much guarantee you are not a bad person, and you will actually do good things with money. So just allow it. Start with the idea that it's only a tool and figure out how it would make you feel to be able to do those wonderful things that you never even let yourself dream about.
Let me just say, I love money, and I want a lot of it. And I'm not ashamed to say I want to jump in a pile of it. I want money. And I have a love-hate relationship with money, and I'm definitely working on that. But I can't accomplish what I was set out to do on this earth if I don't have it. And I wasn't just set out to pay bills and die, and so that is something that is a huge driving force for me. You and I had a show several years ago, and we've wrapped back around because now we're both in our time again, to have this show. And I'm definitely a whole lot further along than I was in the past. And I want money. If I want to go buy a $50,000 watch, it's nobody's business but my own. And I would love to be in that position to be able to do that. However, that's not something that everybody wants to be able to do. I also want to use money as the tool that you were talking about to help women, particularly women. I will absolutely be open to men and young adults to help them overcome things that just keep them stuck. And I don't want to go into a whole lot of detail on this show. The women's empowerment has always just been near and dear to my heart, and that is something that I have decided to focus on. So what do I need to do that? I need to know what I'm talking about, I think. I think that's a prerequisite is to know what I'm talking about. And then I also have to have a drive for that. But I think it's also going to take some kind of money, too, to host workshops and things along those lines. So it's a tool to help me help others, and that's important.
Right.
And you talked about that social status. Go ahead.
That social status is something that, honestly, some people really do thrive in that, I have a lot of money and I can help my family, or I can buy my friends cars and all that kind of thing. It's when you get stingy with it and when you start thinking you're better than everyone else, then I see a problem with a lot, and not everyone, but I see a problem with a lot of wealthy people. In my life, I've been fortunate enough to be a coach for some very well-known people. And I can tell you, some of the more miserable people I've ever met are the ones with the most money.
Yep.
So that's why I think it's important when we start this journey with people. And quite honestly, guys, if you're listening, we're going right along with you. We're doing this with you. You're not by yourself. You have questions, you feel overwhelmed, you feel upset, reach out. But that's why I'm so insistent on letting people know it's not all about it's about how you feel. And I can guarantee you this. The better you feel about yourself, the more money you're going to find, the more opportunities will open up to happen. So that's why I went down that road, because I think it's important to start out with that in mind. A lot of people have worked very, 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 very hard to accumulate things and money, and they're miserable. So let's work on being happy as we accumulate our money.
I want to dive into that just a little deeper, because I did bring up religion, and I know that there are several people who are conflicted over religion. So without going into that topic, one of our commandments is that we're not supposed to be greedy. I think that's a universal law. I believe that's written in, different religions for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. That's not just one specific religion. So I do want to pinpoint that I'm not calling out religion here. I believe in spirituality and a spiritual path, hence why we are doing this show again. But one of the things that we are taught is to not be greedy. And then you hear a conflicting message as money is the root of all evil. And it is, because greed is evil. Not helping out your fellow man is evil. Not being miserly or a Scrooge is not a good way to exist. If that's your choice, that's your choice. But it's much better over on the side of happy. Trust me. I've been there, and I can state for a fact that I would much rather be in a state of happiness than carrying around anger and angst and all of that. But one thing I would like to do is to rephrase that money is a tool to overcome evil. And it can be very necessary to have money in order to overcome things like poverty and starvation and oppression and modern-day slavery and social injustices. And you can do a very grassroots-based, which, if you look, Christ was very grassroots. He had a village helping him with his purpose, with his mission. So it can be done, but he still had that support. And I'm not knocking Christ. I aim to be like him a lot. I'm not quite ready to sacrifice myself for people yet, but I aim to be very much like him in the giving and the generosity and the love. Oh, my gosh, the love. And so this is not a dig whatsoever. It's just a clarification on some of those things that we have heard. Money is a tool. It is an exchange of energy. You go to work, you do a job, you have a description of what you're supposed to do, and in turn, for doing the bare minimum that they require of you, you get money. In this modern society, I really wish we could go back to more of our communal living, but in this modern society, you need money. Yeah. You can't even walk down the street and pick an apple off of a tree to feed yourself. There's nowhere you can go for shelter without being harassed, particularly if you're there is places you can go for shelter, but if you're in certain locations as a metro, area, I hear in DFW, they kick down tents for, homeless encampments. Everybody owns something. It's difficult to not have some sort of security that money can provide.
Right.
I just rambled. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, it did. And the thing is, we could talk for hours about the ills of our money-oriented society, but more to an individual thing. I want to be able to help people that need it. And I think it is our civic duty as human beings to do these things. I've talked in the past, and it's probably on our other show, about how when I had been beaten up by my daughter's father, I was only, I think I was 19 and had a small child. And I went to the church that I had gone to as a child, when I was a child, and they turned me away because I was no longer a member. They would not help me. In fact, the pastor of that church told me, you made your bed, you must lie in it. And that made me vow I would never again go into a church. And I have since then. But, I've not joined another church because of that situation. It took me decades and decades to even begin to understand where the supposed man of God was coming from, turning away a very young, obviously beaten mother with I think she was one or two, she may have been only one, away, would not help me, would not let me stay in the church, would not take me anywhere, and I was on foot, just would not help me. And that's, in my opinion, and that's only my opinion, but I think the Bible kind of backs me up here, that is not what men of God are supposed to. That is not being Christ-like at all. And it really hurt me deeply. And I've heard so many similar stories, mostly from battered women with children who have been turned away by churches. And years and years and years later, I happened to run into that pastor again. And I pulled him aside and let him have it. And that was the wrong thing for me to do, too. But I needed to let him know that what he said was so cruel to me and how it did the absolute opposite of what Christ intended for people to do with each other. Now, the ills of our society are great, but I come from a church. In my opinion, that's a bigger sin. That's a bigger wrong.
I have to agree with you on that one. That's a little bit more tough love than I think a 19-year-old with a 2-year-old child needs to be dealt. Absolutely. And, and a lot of us carry that with us. And that shapes what we do now, who we are, how we can attract money. And it's really, you said it took decades for you to overcome that. I have a very similar situation. And I finally got tired of the struggle bus. I had to pull that son of a bitch over and park it and say, I'm deflating your tires, because I don't ever want to get on you again. Like, I am so tired of struggling, and I'm so tired of being in survival mode, and I'm so tired of this feeling. And where do I dig in, and where do I get to the root of how to fix this? And so there's some followings that say just glaze over it and just let's focus on changing your mindset. I like to nip it in the bud. Actually, I like to take it out at the root so it can never grow again. Because if you just gloss over it, then, it's still potential to rear its ugly head. So I do like to take it out at the root, but it is hard work. And it's not something I recommend. For me, I find that if I can work on myself in the background and then take some time to actually bring it to the forefront and then work on it in the background while I'm doing the other things that I need to do, the actions. You have to take action. You can manifest. We've talked about this before. You can manifest all day long. If you don't take some sort of action, it's not going to fall in your lap. I would say like 1 in a million chance that it's just going to fall in your lap. But you have to, and action can be something as simple as, so for me, I was in a toxic work environment, and it was something I knew I wanted to get out of, the job, the actual employer, not necessarily the field. And so I just devised a plan. I said, okay, I'm going to give myself X amount of time to move into another job. Why did I feel the hesitancy to just quit and move into another job? That's a money story right there, right? I didn't just drop everything and move on, I did devise a plan. And I reached out to several of my former coworkers, bosses, and asked them if they would be willing to be a professional reference if I needed one. And one actually messaged back, of course she could be, and was I looking for a job? So just that simple action put a lot of other stuff into motion for me. So I was able to leave that other job that was something that was draining my energy and just not a cultural fit, and it didn't just align with me. So, you know, just that small action helped, put things in motion for me. And that's something that's important. Do the work while you're doing the actions, while you're making the plans.
Yeah. And really, we started out last week talking about how we viewed ourselves and self-love and how that works with money. And I kind of want to reiterate that, because what you did, the story you just told, you had enough confidence in yourself to actually ask someone to be supportive and be a reference. And a lot of times I've worked with especially formerly battered women who don't even have the confidence to ask someone to be a reference for them. And that in and of itself takes a degree of self-love and self-confidence. And I honestly do believe, as I said last week, that most people's money issues at its beginning started with a lack of love, a lack of self-love, a lack of confidence. When you've been beaten up and put down your entire life, you don't think you deserve anything, much less money.
Right.
So, it's baby steps. It truly is baby steps. When we were talking about mirror work in our other show, so many women would tell me they couldn't even look themselves in the eye. That's a lack of self-esteem, a lack of self-love, a lack of confidence. That is a person who feels invisible. And what I have found personally is that the more invisible people feel, the greater their money issues are. And that's another reason why I put money into your spiritual journey. Give yourself that gift of asking someone for a recommendation. Don't think automatically you're not worthy of someone recommending you or of being seen for your gift, because it's all connected. It is absolutely all connected.
I think of when I was in college and I had to focus on 5 classes a semester, and I still worked part-time, and I had my activities that I was involved in, and I had my family, and I was able to juggle all of that. And I think that, and I had a small child as well. So I think that if we can compartmentalize, when you just look at the picture that's already painted, it can be overwhelming, and compartmentalizing things or breaking it down into different sections. Like I said, I would work on myself in the background while I was coming up with a plan and taking action all at the same time. So a lot of it is, you can't eat the whole elephant in one bite, right? So breaking it down into smaller parts. Get on board with your own big picture, but it's okay if some of the numbers aren't painted in yet.
Right.
Have those steps, see where you want to be, but I don't believe in focusing on the final goal, because it can get to the point where it's overwhelming or you don't see traction fast enough. And, of course, there's breaking things down into smaller goals. But think of a time when you did all the things. Maybe you're doing it now. Maybe you're married with children. You have activities, and both of you work, and there's still household things that need to be done, and kids need to go to this ball game or this birthday party or whatever. How are you juggling all that? you can use the same system, even if you're not a perfect at it, even if you're not an expert at it. You can use the same system and apply that to just doing your own self-work and working on, I need to work on my money story, but I also need to come up with a budget. So track your spending for the last month. Follow that budget. Just put them in buckets. It doesn't even have to be food. Food could be the big bucket. Just put anything that involves food in that bucket. It doesn't have to be how much do I spend on fast food, and you don't have to break it down to breakfast and all that yet, unless that's your personality. And then you're absolutely go for it. But there's small things while you're doing the journaling, while you're thinking about those money stories, while you're sitting down with that person that you were at that time and having a conversation with that person. I know it sounds weird. It sounds kind of woo-woo, but we call that the inner child, right? Having that conversation with them and say that, they're okay, they're safe now, you've got it, you have everything that you need to take it to the next step, you've got it, you appreciate so much that they have been there for you and that they have been protecting you, and then hug that child, hug that person that you were at that point. And my favorite, a friend of mine gave this visual to me, give them a red balloon and tell them to go play. And then if they feel that they need to be there for you again, they can come back. But you continue to heal your former self. And that's one of the best ways that I have found to heal my former self, is really sitting down with my child, imaginary inner child, past self, whatever you want to call it. It really is a great way that I can connect with my soul to heal those things that need to be healed. And then I find when I'm in a situation that might be similar to something I've been in the past, it doesn't take as long for me to work through it and to devise some sort of plan on what I should do next.
Right. Absolutely. Someone just messaged me here, and they say every time they get money, and I hear this all the time, I know this one well, every time they get money, especially if it's unexpected money, they immediately either spend it or pay a bill with it rather than leaving it in their bank account. Well, what you're doing there, and I know everybody's done it, this is the most common thing I have heard. You have to understand what you're doing. Even if you're paying a bill, even if you're buying extra food or whatever, if you immediately take out money from your bank, immediately when it's put in there, you were telling yourself you don't deserve money. Get that out of my bank. It doesn't belong there. I'm a poor person. What do you think in putting money in my bank? Please stop that. Let it sit in your bank at least a couple of days before you go out and start spending it. It's a training tool. When you have money, especially unexpected money, everybody I know personally has done this. Somebody sends you money for a birthday or Christmas or other holiday, or maybe just because they felt like you needed it, and immediately it goes back out of your bank account. Stop that. Even if you do need it to pay a bill, leave it in there at least a day. I mean, if it's something urgent like your electricity is about to be shut off, that's a different story. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about urgent needs. I'm talking about, everybody's got bills. Everybody has utilities, rent, mortgage, whatever you have, car payments maybe. If you're not in dire circumstances, and even if you are, at least leave $10 in your bank. You need to get in the habit of seeing money in your bank account, even if it's only $5 or $10. Money in, leave it for at least a day, and I'm saying a day because I know the circumstances a lot of our listeners are in. Eventually you'll get to a week, and then it'll be a couple of weeks, and eventually you'll get to a month. And won't that be wonderful? to have a little bit of a financial cushion in your bank account. So often we think money in, money out, money in, money out. You know, I used to have a friend that would say every month she paid on her bills. Not she paid her bills, she paid on her bills. And that was really telling to me, because how many of us live like that? So when you get money, and thank you, by the way, for the message, when you get money, try to leave it in. You know, if you can leave it in for a day, make it a game. Can you leave it in there for 2 days? Okay, you can take some out. But don't immediately rush to, oh, there's money in my bank. I have to get it out right now. What can I pay? What can I do? What can I spend? Stop that thinking. It's not healthy for you. So does that make sense?
Yes, I absolutely love that. And I just want to add to that. Anytime I see any money in my account, I get giddy. I get happy. I don't care if it's my paycheck that I knew was going in there. I get so overwhelmed with joy and gratitude that I'm thankful. Anytime I see a deposit go into my bank account, oh, thank you. You do love me, you know? And that is, I treasure that my hard work was paid off. And so I feel like that's part of it as well, is having a relationship with money, you know, however that means to you, have a more positive relationship with money. And so that's what you said was absolutely beautiful. You know, don't immediately spend it. But another thing a lot of people don't do is they don't pay themselves because they don't feel worthy. How many times do you sit down and you get your paycheck, however that paycheck is for you, whether you're self-employed or whatnot, you get that money, and like you said, it immediately goes out. How often are you paying all these other people before you even stop and say, you know what, this is mine. This is my money. Yes, I have responsibilities for this money, and this money is a tool to pay my electric bill and to pay my water. But this is my money. And think of it that way, too. You know, be gracious and loving and just excited and full of gratitude that you have some form of money that went into that bank account. And then claim it. This is mine. Thank you so much for providing this for me. And then put some of it in an account. I don't believe in low yield savings accounts unless it's your financial emergency account. And once you start seeing that money grow, because this is a game I started to play, I was like, ooh, I like that bank balance. What else do I not need to put more money in that bank balance? And I'm talking like, do I really need a pair of shoes, or is it going to be something that's just going to be a Band-Aid over a crater? Like, what is the desire? Now, if you need a new pair, or you know you're in a certain profession, for me, I want to look presentable at work. I want to look like a professional, because there's still a whole appearance thing that I don't know instinctively if that's ever going to go away, but that's a whole other topic as well. You know, that there's certain ways that I want to present myself to the world, right? So, because I'll get more money that way. But anyway, that's another story, like I said. But, you know, can I make my own cold brew at home? Yeah, actually, I can. Can I make my own creamer? Yep. And you know what else I get to save? The calories. I get to save my waistline while I'm saving my money. It is a win-win. You see how excited I am about just talking about this? It is a win-win, and you need to be excited about things like this. And it could be the caffeine that I've had this morning, but we're just going to go with my level of excitement over the topic of money. You know, just the littlest things. When you start to see that savings grow, you know, can you put $2 a week away? It might be something small, but can you do that? You know, it's okay to make some sacrifices in order to be there for yourself. One of my favorite things to do, I found $10 tucked away in a pocket the other day, and I was like, oh, my God, my former self loved me so much that it wanted my future self to find a gift. You know, and it's the silliest thing. It is so silly. But, you know, it makes me feel good when I squirreled away a Diet Pepsi for a rainy day or something along those lines, and just knowing that there is something there for me in the future when I need it. Man, the sense of security that you get from that, just the sense of the relief of some of the stress is incredible. And not everybody's there yet, but it is my deepest desire and my sole purpose is to help people get to that point. So I'm really glad we're doing this series.
You touched on something there I kind of want to expand on, and that's the feeling giddy. And anytime you can laugh and be happy about any aspect of your life, you're attracting more of that to you. So one of the things that I used to do when I was very, 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 very poverty-stricken way back when, I would log in or look up my bank balance. This was actually before the internet that I started doing this. But I would call my bank, the automatic your balance thing, and yes. I would say, "Good morning, money. How are we today?" And it would make me laugh every single time.
I love that.
And now I log in, because everything is online now, and I still kind of do the same thing when I'm feeling stressed. Anytime I start feeling stressed about any aspect of my life, I find a way to laugh at that aspect. And it's a funny little silly tool that we can all do. When you log into your bank account and you look at your bank account, no matter what it is, you go, "Good morning, money. How are the dollars and cents today?" And make yourself laugh about it. Overboard. I have a friend who says every morning she has coffee with her money, and she logs into her bank account while she drinks her first cup of coffee, and she just stares at it and imagines extra zeros flowing into her bank.
Oh, I love that too.
Well, as long as the zeros are at the end of your money, you're doing good. But, in little silly tools, find what resonates with you. Find something that makes you giggle. Because anytime you're laughing, you're raising your vibration. And I know vibrations are something a lot of people don't understand. And that doesn't matter right now. It doesn't matter if you understand vibrations. Just know that when you laugh and you giggle over a particular thing that's going on in your life, you are drawing more of that to you. That's the way the universe works. And we'll get to that in another series. Well, I think that is a topic that needs to be more deeply explained. But for right now, just know, make yourself giggle about your money situation. If you've got money coming in and it almost exactly equals money going out, congratulate yourself on being able to pay your bills.
Exactly.
If you've got a couple of dollars left over, yahoo, that's your windfall for the month. Find a way to lighten the mood around money. Money should not be a deep, dark, heavy subject. We make it that way. So,
it shouldn't be a burden.
Anything that makes you laugh is a good thing. If you can start learning to laugh at less than good things, starting to make progress. There was a time in my life when I was doing only coaching, and I had someone come to me, and she called me. She had deep, deep, deep money issues. So much money issues, she couldn't pay me, and I still coached her because she needed it that badly. And she called me one day, and she said, "Well, I only bounced one check this month." And that was her win. And at first I thought, oh, no, how horrible, you're bouncing checks. But from her perception, from her perspective of that situation, she said, "Well, in the past I've bounced 3 or 4. I only did 1 this month. That's good, going in the right direction." And the next month she found out that she didn't bounce any checks. But her issue, along with many other people who have money issues, is that she did not keep track of her money. I can tell you to the penny how much is in my bank account right now.
Right.
And that is something that I have worked really hard on being able to do. In order to draw money to you, you have to spend time with the money you have. And that means looking at it, figuring out how much you have and what your bills are, and write them down and look at the numbers, no matter how bad they seem right now. If you don't acknowledge the issue, you cannot heal the issue. And I think that's where I want to leave it today. We're running out of time anyway. I'd like for everyone to do that. Look at your money situation. Look at exactly what you have coming in and exactly what you have going out. I don't want you to do anything else with it. We're not talking about cutting expenses or any of that right now. I just want you to know where you are. Only when you know exactly where you are can you change where you are. So let's leave it here this week. Lisa, do you have any final thoughts on that?
I do. So track your spending for the next week, but also because we have instant access to our money. And a lot of the banking apps now will actually already have some sort of pie chart for you where you can go and see where your expenses are. Also, go back a few weeks as well and see if you can get that information and include that in a small money tracking scenario. But be very mindful of your money when you start to spend it. It's so easy to just swipe. We don't have to reconcile our bank accounts anymore because we know what's coming out. We might have those auto pays that we forget, so that swipe mode might put us in the negative. But be mindful of your money. Treat that debit card like you would the cash system. Because it's harder to let go of cash than it is to just swipe a card, right? So, treat it like a cash system. Be mindful of your money and start tracking that. And take some time to go back a few weeks and create some sort of track system, whether it's spreadsheets. Excel is an amazing program. You can visualize in a pie chart or bar graph. We don't want to get into that much detail yet, but know that is going to be the next goal that we talk about. And just start kind of, being more mindful of your money and tracking that money, because that is the first step, is realizing where your money is going.
Yep.
And we're breaking down baby steps for you.
Absolutely. So
and next week I want to talk about the guilt around money.
Oh, yes. That's a big subject, too. And it certainly deserves its own show. So I think we've wrapped up for today. Yes, please share the show. If you have any questions, comments, want healing, energy healing, Reiki readings, reach out to us, please. We are here to help you. And have a fabulous week. Until next time. See you then.
Bye, everyone.
Your home can be more than just a home. It can be your own personal fitness retreat, a place where you break a sweat, break your personal record, or just get a break in the day. Johnson Fitness and Wellness is your partner in creating the perfect home gym. And now, enjoy up to 50% off top-rated treadmills, ellipticals starting at $5.99, and major discounts on strength equipment. Visit a local store or johnsonfitness.com. Your home gym is just a few steps away.